Welcome to Mitchell Levy Presents, where I dive into the essential elements of clarity and credibility. Hosted by global credibility expert Mitchell Levy, today's episode offers invaluable insights to make you think and act more credibly. Join us as we explore living your values, boosting your credibility, and leading purposefully. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I am so glad that you're here to join me during one of the most funnest times of my week. Well, I get to interview a thought leader, an expert on who they are, essentially diving deep into their values. I am so excited, Laith Murad, to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Mitchell. It's been great. Look, every time we get the chance to chat, it's always invigorating. So I appreciate it. We always push each other to think one step more. And, you rarely see that in the world today. So it's always nice to just get the chance to chat.
By the way, I'm going to say yes on my upcoming book. You've made me think about and rechange the order of my stakeholders, but that's for another day. Let's talk about you and who are you?
Look, I'm an individual that has many passions, but one of them, when it comes to the business world, my passion really focuses in on staying true to the customer. I have the saying that if the customer is your true north, you'll always be right in the end. It may not look like it in the short term, but in the end, you will always be right. And so you have to really understand who the customer is, not just from, how many transactions do they do? How often do they come? But why? Why do they come? Why do they want to be a part of your brand? Who do they want to be? And, I find it great, to just really step back and think about who your customer is, why they want to buy, why they want to engage. And when you can get into that mindset, it's not just about getting in the mindset. It allows the creativity to grow. You can start to your imagery, your copy, your text, anything in marketing. It's unlimited once you understand that your customer is your most important stakeholder in the entire company.
Okay, so I'm going to say yes, and let's go beyond just the business side. Who's the rest of you?
So let's talk about me. I have a lifelong love of soccer. I call it football, but I have a lifelong love of soccer. I, really value both playing, watching, and I've been coaching, some bonus 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds for the past year. And, it's just been fantastic. And I think it really does kind of let you know who you are, both personally and from a passion in business, because you start to realize you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're kind of grooming the team to actually think bigger, to think strategically, not just think, what do I need to do next, but why I need to do it. And I think it's really important. So, as I watch games or I play myself, I'm always thinking of what's next. And, you'll always find me, kind of catching highlights, and, that becomes my scroll stopper through, all my social feeds is a lot of soccer highlights. So that's where I am. I love, I'm a beach person versus a mountain person. Love the beaches, love water. Really enjoy, most every sport. Not all of them. I'm going to not share the ones I don't like, but, I do follow a bit. But, mostly I just have a passion for, trying to find the joy in life, because it's so easy to find the negative in life, especially with everything going on in the world. It's so hard sometimes to go, wow, we live in a wonderful place. And, I do practice this one thing, which is, tell the people you love them, because tomorrow's never promised.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, so funny. Marshall Goldsmith, so I'm one of the Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches, and one of his best practices, he recommends that for accountability, you create a series of questions you ask yourself every day. And 2 of the 9 you and I have covered already. One of them is, for me, did I change the life of somebody for the rest of their lives? Another one of my questions, and this is my one of my underwealth. Did I tell the people I love that I love them? What a great, by the way, just to be clear, what a great putting the customer first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So interesting. What's that mean at work? Do you when
So,
you end up getting
so
jobs, do you end up building love, or what do you build?
I think you have to get the customer to really fall in love with your brand and who you are. And so, you just said something, and it's like, how do you show love? And so you think about it in your personal life, and if you start to translate it to business, it's just coming to me. But like, I'm listening to you and I'm processing how it does translate. It naturally comes to me, so I haven't like really explained it out loud. But in the personal world, sending your wife, your spouse, your partner, whoever, a text message, hey, I love you, whatever, is great. Flowers, a card, handwritten note, small things, that sends a message that's different. It kind of shows that there's action behind what you're saying. It also shows that there's real meaning and care. And you took an extra little step to just do that because it's super easy to just text someone. So easy. And so translate that to business. How many messages do you get from companies today that, hey, we love you, come back, we miss you, we do this, talk about saying thank you. How do you say thank you to those you love? Sometimes it's a return gesture. Sometimes it's, just, hey, wow, I really appreciate you. But you don't say, I really appreciate you. Why don't you come back to me and bring me more stuff? Does anybody ever say that? But how many hundreds of emails have I gotten in the last year alone that say, thank you, we miss you, get $25 off when you spend 100? That's not a thank you, that's a promotion. Free shipping if you spend this. A genuine thank you means I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting anything in return. I give, and I don't if I want to give you $10 off, give me $10 off. Don't ask for anything in return. I guarantee you it's a different relationship with a customer once you start to treat them how you kind of treat those you love. And so when you start to do that and you think through that and you start to not talk about the specs of a product and you start to talk about why they want to buy it and why they would look great in it and what activity do they have or what, maybe it's a school function, maybe it's a date, maybe it's, we're going to the beach, we're going on vacation, whatever it may be. You start to speak to that and you start to bring emotion into the equation. The data will tell you where the stories are. You just have to craft the story. And when you start to craft the story, people don't remember how many t-shirts they bought from you. They remember, I wore that t-shirt that I got at blank when I went on my first date or when we went for an anniversary or when we went on vacation. I remember we went shopping there. It was amazing. Like, I loved what I got. That's how you start to build a relationship with customers.
Mm. By the way, you just changed the wording. Instead of did I tell somebody I love that I love them, did I show somebody I love that I love them? Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
you're welcome.
What so what are some habits? You've given a couple, probably 4 or 5 so far. What are some habits that when you first get to a company and you noticed, sorry, I'm going to change the direction of the question a little bit. You
Sure.
notice that you want to work there, so obviously it has all the right values.
Right.
But you notice that there's something wrong. They're not living the love. They're not showing the love properly. How do you change that inside a company?
So that's a really interesting question because a lot of times in today's world, especially in tech, um, and even in retail, the products lead the discussion. The merchants, the products in tech, the apps, and they want to talk about what it does for you and how it's gonna, save you a minute here, 10 minutes here. How many times do I get in LinkedIn? Hey, we can create your great cohorts automatically through AI and this and this and this. They don't ever tell me why I need it. They just tell me what it does. And there are a lot of companies who focus in on the what, the what, the what. What's your features? What's your specs? I was working for a high-end luxury kitchen bath, wonderful company, and we did a whole billboard campaign out of New York. It was amazing. And the appliances, the grills were all in the background. People were at the forefront because what are you more attracted to, people or things? And so when people, you look online shopping, if you're looking at clothing, there are people on it. They don't just show you the clothes, there's people. But they forget about that when they start to try to create their brand, and they forget that people are the most important, and how they talk to you are the most important. So you see a lot of, you know, promotions leading the conversation, or you start to see a lot of times the product, and hey, this is, whether it's 18 karat gold, if you're talking jewelry, or a lifetime warranty, it starts talking about, what you get when you buy it, as opposed to how you will feel when you wear it. And that's kind of how you have to shift the emotion. The hardest part is there's so much difficulty in today's environment with the data, the ROI, the measurement, that sometimes you have to kind of break through. And it's interesting because I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, how do you do, like, everybody wants to do the same thing. And I'm like, everyone's following the same routine. How do you break through? I said, you got to change the conversation. You got to change the direction. You got to do it. And I will call out one brand. There's very few brands I've seen do it over the years. Apple did it with their Think Different campaign. Equinox did it when they did their, the person walking upstairs, the guy jumping into the pool. It wasn't about, it wasn't Stairmaster. It was showing like, this is what you get when you work out. And then the Aura ring just did it with, show us the finger, and or give us the finger. Sorry, I don't remember exactly what it is, but they took a leap of faith that I don't need to talk about that it has a 7-day battery life. I don't need to talk about, the 17 functions it's going to track for you. I just need to talk about, this is about your well-being later in life. And if you want to grow old healthy, this is for you. And it just changed the trajectory from their competition and said, we are different. We are someone special, and we are someone you want to have a relationship with. And so I think it takes a really bold move. And I can bet, the CMO had that conversation of, I think it'll work. And in my gut, it says it will. And it did. I mean, it was fantastic. And there was no ROI because you can't put a number on that because it's such a risky proposition that the whole company has to say, we're going to take that leap of faith. And they put the customer first, and that was the winning hand.
So I'm going to say I hear you. I'm going to say I hear you in the big and. Because if we're moving in terms of the focus I have, executive abundance, where actually you're right, customer comes first, right? So of the 5 stakeholders, it has to be customer. So if you move in that direction, the world, the investors want to see ROI. They want to see it. Now you ultimately get it with longevity and tons of other things, but how how do you take how as that CMO or the CEO, how do you take that bold action that says, listen, we got to move in this direction. We need to stop measuring these things and we need to start measuring those things. We need to change the way we communicate. I mean, that's some of the how, but how do you get the all the stakeholders to say, yep, I'm in. Let's do it.
So one, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to actually have the conviction to believe that it will work. So you have to start with, you have to actually believe in it. It can't come from ChatGPT. It can't come from, some agency. It has to come from you knowing in your gut that your customer will respond. And then it takes a little bit of education, sitting down with them and saying, here's why it's going to work. Here's why I really believe it. And you got to bet on yourself. You got to bet on yourself. And if you can do that, you can actually put together the story properly. And if you put the customer first, you will win. No doubt. The metrics you talked about, you're not you're not shifting the metrics. You're not saying, hey, I don't care about CAC. I don't care about lifetime value. I don't care about ROAS. I don't care about any of those things. You're saying, I really do care about those things. But giving all my money to the social media platforms, giving all of this to, everyone else, I'm paying to grow. And the organic nature of people just loving my brand isn't taking over. And so the more they raise their rates or they raise their, CPMs, whatever it is, cost per click, however they're doing it, you're really beholden to them. And they own the customer. They own the distribution. They own everything. So how do you shift it and say, I want to own the customer? I want to own the narrative. And that does take passion and a leap of faith. And it also takes conviction from the, executive team, the CEO, the founders, whoever it may be, the investors often, to say, wow. And once you do that and you get the entire organization to believe, and you do your research, you do your diligence, you kind of float some of this out with your own teams, not just your teams in marketing, but you go into HR, you go into finance, you walk into operations, you go down to engineering and the data analysts, and you say, what would you do if you saw this? And you comp it up for them, and if they give you the reaction, great. Then you say, go take it home, show it to your partner, spouse, whoever, kids, whoever your target customer is, assuming that they are the target, ask them. You've got focus groups internally. Just get some quick feedback. Listen to what they say. They aren't always right, but they often have little nuggets that you say, wow, I can just tweak that just a tiny bit. I can just make just a small, like you just said, show me the love, not just, tell me the love. Like, you can just make small tweaks because someone every level, whether you are an intern or you've been around for 30 years and this has been your life, everyone has an idea. So don't disrespect that. It's your job to then understand it and leverage it and then produce it how it fits into the narrative. It may not be exact, but it may be enough of a nugget to go, wow, I think I can deliver something really special. That was amazing. And then I'm a firm believer of, if you do take ideas or people give you those ideas, share back the credit. You don't need it. There's nobody who needs it. And so it shouldn't be the I did this. It should be we did this. And by the way, I want to call out intern, you know, Sally, Johnny, whoever down there who actually told me this. And that was one of my inspirations for this small, slight tweak. I
Hmm.
think that makes people go, wow, I believe not only in the company, but I believe in the leadership. And when you get the whole company believing in the leadership, efficiency, efficacy, everything increases.
All right, got it. Love this. And now the question is why? Where did this come from? Why is this important to you? What is there something that happened early on in your career? Is it something you
Look,
saw?
I had, I was fortunate when I started my career at Neiman's. I had a boss, Billy Payton, amazing creator of InCircle, kind of retail loyalty programs today. First one. And he was the first one to say, customer, know who, in this case, know who she is, know her well, know exactly who she is, why she comes in, why she's buying, what she's doing it for. Start to understand, get in her mind, start to get into it. And he was so passionate about it that that's all I could think of, hey, what partners are we going to do? It wasn't about someone writing me a check. It was, are you going to bring something to my customer? If you are, great. If you're not, I don't want your money. It's not about money. And so I left. I started consulting for brands like Nike, Bloomingdale's, Victoria's Secret, a bunch of American Eagle Outfitters, Men's Warehouse, a bunch of retail brands, as well as some hospitality. And Hal Brierley, who's kind of the godfather of all loyalty programs, created American Airlines Advantage program. Brilliant, really instilled the discipline of data into me and saying we have to be smart. And so try to reward incrementality, don't just reward based behavior. And that has always stuck through. And then he said, make it simple for the customer to engage and understand, and make it as complicated on the backside as you can, meaning how personal can I make it? Because the more personal you get, the more complicated it is on the backside, but the customer should never notice it. The customer should always feel they're number one, you're talking to them alone. The data is telling me that you may want more lipstick. You may want another t-shirt. You may, Mitchell, you may be going to the beach with your wife to celebrate your, I think you said 36th anniversary last time we talked. You know, you may be taking her to a nice dinner on the beach. Guess what? You need to get her, you need to go shop in a jewelry store. Go to Tiffany's. Here's what you need because that's coming up. And so all of a sudden you feel like you're the only one they're talking to, even if it's 10,000 of you, but it feels like it's you. And so Hal Brierly really instilled this. How do we measure incrementality? How do we grow? How do you let data and technology deal with the complexities while the customer feels special each and every time? And then I was fortunate to go to Yahoo, and Kathy Savitt, I will tell you, is one of the most brilliant marketers I've ever worked with. Um, she had a unique ability to, I like to say, see around the corner and see what's next. I, I've never, completely humble. Like I've never had that ability. I can deliver when someone paints me that picture that, hey, I saw around the corner, but there's probably two or three people in this world that can see around the corner like she can, of what's coming, where the trends are. And I'm talking, Gen Z all the way up. She sees it and she's like, here's where we need to focus because in 6 months, in 8 months, it's coming and I'm going to be ahead of it. And so while everyone jumps on it, we've already done the planning. And so what that means is you've got to instill the processes, you've got to instill the structure, you've got to make sure that the team understands why you're doing things so that as it starts to grow organically in the world, from a trend, you're already set up for success and you've already laid the foundation and you can deliver something that is magical. And I think that's, the last part Kathy delivered. And then from there, I went on to be CMO. And I kind of took all three of them and said, how do I instill the customer, the data, the desire, as well as never being, sitting down and saying, oh, I've already done this. This is the playbook, because Kathy taught you the playbook changes every day and you better stay on top of it. So I constantly am reading, whether it's Women's Wear Daily for 10 minutes, just keeping up with what's going on. What are trends? What do you start to see? What do you start to notice? Talk to people, just talking. Oh, this is how you're getting your information. Interesting. I didn't know that. How can I take, search? Great example. What's going to happen with, Google search? Are you going to pay for ads, or are people using ChatGPT or Perplexity as their search engine now? What does that do to you? So starting to make sure you're ahead of things and prepared, because if a lot of your revenue is coming in from search, you better start shifting how you're thinking about it. And so seeing around that corner, and let's say I can just see the mile away, she can see the 1.1 as it turns the corner, I can at least get to the mile. And it's really an amazing thing when you start to think about it, that you've now been prepared to adjust, to shift, to make the changes. And then you have to adjust the team. You have to internally start to say, hey, I know you were working, example, we had 3 people working on search. I want to shift one of you over. I want, let's figure out this new thing, because we're going to go after these 3 priorities. We're not going to do 20 things, because a lot of times that's also the pressure. Do everything you can. Do 3 things really, really, really well.
Hmm.
And that's really important. It's, the old peanut butter principle from, back in the old days of Yahoo, came up with it. Not me. And you just kind of get this, don't spread yourself too thin trying to do everything, when if you do 3 things really well, you will blow every metric out the door.
Hmm. Nice. All right. So, in addition to coaching, which is something in terms of implementing your values towards customer, that you're doing to your family, what else do you do personally? What else are you doing that's taking these values that it's impressive what you're doing and how you're focused from the work side. How do you do that internally? How do you apply that to yourself and to your family?
Um, I pay attention to a lot of details. I pay attention to what people like. I pay attention to small things. And so I'm a very generous, giving person, just naturally. You can ask anybody. I just, it's been instilled in me that, generosity is part of who I am. And so I think it's also about understanding that if you're bringing people over, like if I bring people over to my house, it's also always been about like, how do I take care of you? Maybe you've been sober, maybe you like to drink, maybe you like white wine, maybe you like red wine, making sure you have something. So you kind of always lodge in, at least I do in my mind, who they are so you can take care of them and it feels personal and it's not everything for everybody. And so I take great pride in trying to individualize, understand each individual that I have a relationship with, and I'm not talking romantically, I'm talking just a relationship with. Um, for example, you shared your anniversary, and just lodging that in my head and going, wow, how is that? And really, I think it's recognizing those moments and then also recognizing the individual aspect of them and what they like and who they are.
Mm, that's amazing. All right. So, listen, if people really were listening to this and said, "Oh my goodness, I need to reach out to Laith," what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Probably LinkedIn. So I'd say my LinkedIn is probably the best way. I have a Calendly app or Calendly link on my LinkedIn under my contact information. They can just click right there, get my schedule, and kind of see what's going on. It's not always accurate, but it'll give you enough. Sometimes there's some personal stuff that I have going on or different meetings that I don't publish. But that those are probably the two best ways to reach me. I'm based out of Southern California, so that's where you'll find me, Pacific time zone.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. So, based on this conversation, is there another question either you would have liked me to ask you or something else that you'd want to ask yourself that we didn't talk about?
Well, I don't want to talk about myself anymore. How's that? Um, Look, I think the question that's outstanding is you kind of asked it is how do you weigh the short term and the long term? Because the pressures of the short term are often so significant that you naturally, whether you like it or not, have to shift doing everything you should be doing. And so you change your focus, and your gut tells you every CMO I've ever talked to, their gut knows it's wrong. They know they're not doing it, but they know they have to hit the numbers and, they've got to make, because what do they say? Revenue cures all ills. It
I've heard that.
does
I've heard that.
until revenue doesn't cure any ills, and then you shift exactly who you are and your brand starts to change and you turn into a transactional relationship and you lose your customer. And I think that's one of the hardest things for any executive, especially marketers who are, driven by the team to drive leads, drive new customers, drive retention, drive lifetime value. Yet they have to hit a number in 6 weeks. And so they shift their energy to hit that number. And then all of a sudden they lose customers because customers say, I don't recognize your brand. And it doesn't happen overnight, it happens over time. And then all of a sudden they realize we have to go redefine who we are. And you see
Mm,
that with several brands today. I'm not going to name them, but you see it with several brands today who, one of them I've noticed, you walk in and they're always saying welcome. They're drawing on cups again and things like that. They've gone back to who they truly are. And it's really, it does change the relationship back. And it is winning back customers because they are true to who they are and they've stopped chasing the quarterly revenue number that they had to hit or the monthly number they have to hit. They've started saying, how do we build this relationship for the long term? So when we grow, it will all be incremental.
mm. Lay, thank you so much for spending time with me and with us today. I love the conversation. I love your viewpoint. It is so on par for how companies need to be today to stand out in tomorrow's AI driven crazy world is you need one just core focus of the customer. And I just want to say thank you so much for leading that charge and being you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey,
Always fun with you.
oh my goodness. Thank you. Looking forward to the next one. And listen, if you're still here, I want to say thank you. Thanks for sticking in the entire time. It is now your chance to spread Laith's cred dust. Essentially, find those aha moments that stick out for you. Lori Payne is love the reminder of just do three things well. So find that thing that sticks out for you. Share it on the social media platform that is most exciting to you. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care, everyone. Laith, thanks again and take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in today's episode. Like, subscribe, and share your aha moments on your preferred platform. Remember, credibility starts with clarity and living your values. Learn more at mitchelllevy.com. Until next time.